You eat turkey almost every Thanksgiving. You grab those neat, plastic-wrapped breasts at the store without even thinking. It's just turkey, right? But here's the thing nobody ever told you. The turkey on your plate, it's basically a completely different animal from the wild turkeys running around the American woods right now. And I mean completely different. There are millions of wild turkeys out there. Fast, smart, everywhere. Yet almost none of them ever end up on a dinner table. Not because they're protected, not because they're rare, not because they taste bad, but because of a decision people made decades ago. A decision that quietly shaped everything about the bird you actually eat. Most folks assume a turkey's a turkey. Wild one, farm one, same thing. Makes sense. Seems obvious. But that's not what happens. Not even close. And once you understand why, you're going to look at that Thanksgiving centerpiece completely differently. Stay with me till the end, because the last part of this story reveals something about the American food system that'll genuinely change how you think about what's on your plate. So let's start at the very beginning. Picture a wild turkey, not the frozen blob in your freezer, a real one, out in the forest. It's lean, it's alert. It can sprint at 25 miles an hour. And here's the wild part. It can actually fly, up to 55 miles an hour in short bursts. It roosts in trees at night. It's got eyesight 3 times sharper than yours. This is one of the toughest, most switched-on birds in North America. Now picture the turkey you buy. It can't fly. It can barely walk. It can't even reproduce on its own anymore. Left in the wild, it wouldn't last a week. Same name, totally different creature. And that gap, that's where the whole story lives. So how did we get here? It comes down to one thing. The wild turkey and the farm turkey aren't the same bird. They were split apart on purpose for centuries. Here's what most people don't realize. Native Americans were raising turkeys over 2,000 years ago. When Europeans showed up, they took those birds back across the ocean, bred them, and shipped them back to America generations later. So the American turkey on your table, it took a whole round trip across the Atlantic before it became what it is today. But that's just the warm-up. The real transformation happened in the 20th century, and it was brutal. See, wild turkeys are small. A wild tom weighs maybe 16 to 20 pounds. And a lot of that is feathers, bone, and muscle, built for surviving, not for eating. There's not a ton of meat on it. And the meat that is there, it's dark, it's tough, it's gamey. That's a problem if you're trying to feed a whole country cheap, tender white meat. So breeders got to work. And they didn't just tweak the turkey. They rebuilt it. They bred for one thing above all, breast meat. That big, white, boneless breast Americans love. Bigger, bigger, bigger. Decade after decade. And here's the cost of that. The modern farm turkey, the broad-breasted white, has a breast so massive, so heavy, that the birds physically cannot mate. Their bodies are too front-loaded. It's mechanically impossible. Let that sink in. Every single commercial turkey you've ever eaten was created through artificial insemination. Every one. There is no such thing as a naturally born supermarket turkey. The whole species, as a food animal, can only exist because humans breed it by hand. And it gets bigger, literally. A wild turkey takes a full year to hit its natural weight. A farm turkey hits market weight, sometimes over 30, 40 pounds, in just a few months. We more than doubled the size and cut the time in half. The bird's been pushed so hard, so fast, that its own skeleton and heart sometimes can't keep up. Its legs buckle under its own breast. It's one of the most extreme animal engineering projects in human history. And it's sitting in your fridge right now. So here's the real question. If wild turkeys are out there by the millions, why don't we just eat those? And this is where it gets uncomfortable, because we almost lost them completely. By the early 1900s, wild turkeys were nearly wiped out in America, overhunting, chopped down forests. At the low point, there were only about 30,000 wild turkeys left in the entire country. A bird that once blanketed the continent, gone from most of it. So think about the irony. Right when we were breeding a fat, farmable turkey to feed millions, the actual wild bird was disappearing in front of us. We didn't stop eating wild turkey because we chose not to. We stopped because we nearly erased it. But, and here's where the story turns, this one actually has a comeback. Because someone finally asked the question. Wildlife groups, hunters, conservationists, back in the mid-1900s, they looked at those 30,000 birds and said, not on our watch. And what they pulled off is one of the greatest wildlife rescues in American history. They started trapping the few wild turkeys that were left and physically relocating them, moving them into forests where they'd vanished, state by state, county by county, rebuilding the population by hand. And it worked spectacularly. From 30,000 birds to over 6 million today. The wild turkey came roaring back into nearly every state. It's one of the few times humans looked at a disappearing animal and actually fixed it. So now, legally, you can hunt and eat wild turkey. Millions of Americans do every single year. It's leaner, some say it's tastier, it's real wild food. Feels like the story wraps up nice and clean, right? Wild turkey saved, farm turkey feeds the country. Everybody wins. But now here's where it gets more complicated. Because the story doesn't stop with the birds. It stops with you and what you're actually buying. See, the reason you don't eat wild turkey isn't really about the turkey at all. It's about the system. Wild turkey can't be farmed at scale. It's too small, too slow, too wild. And legally, you can only get it by hunting. It'll never fill a supermarket. So the industry didn't fix the wild bird for your dinner. It built a brand new bird around one goal: cheap, fast, white meat by the ton. And that means every Thanksgiving, you're not eating tradition. You're eating optimization. That classic American turkey, it's maybe 70 years old as a product. Your grandparents ate a leaner, smaller, tougher bird. The giant butterball centerpiece we treat as timeless is actually one of the most modern, most engineered foods on your entire table. And here's the part that really gets me. You see the turkey. You don't see the hatchery. You see the price. You don't see what the price is built around. You see tradition. You don't see 70 years of breeding it into something that can't even survive on its own. This isn't a guilt trip. It's just the truth about modern food. It's industrial, it's invisible. And that invisibility, it's not an accident. It's the design. Because the moment you start asking where your food actually comes from, you can't unask it. We nearly wiped out the wild turkey, then pulled off a miracle to save it. And at the same time, we quietly built a totally new bird to replace it on our plates. One that can't fly, can't breed, can't survive. A bird that exists only because we need it to. 2 turkeys, same name. One built by nature and rescued by humans. One built entirely by humans. And almost nobody at the dinner table knows the difference. So why don't we eat wild turkey? Because we built a system where we didn't have to. We made a bird that fit the machine instead. The question was never really whether the wild turkey was good enough to eat. It was. It always was. The real question is what you do with this now that you know it. Because that's the thing about invisible systems. They stay invisible until someone finally looks. And you just looked.